In the vast darkness of space, a massive fleet of ships moved silently. These were not just any ships. They belonged to the Zarkan Empire, the most feared force in the known universe. Their ships looked like giant, metal monsters. Each one was bigger than a city and filled with weapons that could destroy whole planets. At the head of this fleet was the biggest ship of all. It was called the Emperor's Fist. Inside, on a tall throne, sat Emperor Xalvor. He looked out at the stars with his 4 eyes, each one a different color. His skin was blue and covered in shiny scales. On his head, he wore a crown made of rare metals from 100 conquered worlds. Xalvor smiled, showing his sharp teeth. He was happy. For thousands of years, his people had taken over planet after planet. No one could stop them. They had the best technology, the strongest warriors, and the biggest ships. Everywhere they went, they won. "My emperor," said a voice. Xalvor turned to see his top general, Zok, bowing low. "We have finished taking over the Andromeda Galaxy. What are your orders now?" Xalvor stood up. He was very tall, almost 3 times the height of a human. "Excellent work, Zok," he said. His voice was deep and scary. "But I'm bored. Taking over Andromeda was too easy. I want a real challenge." Zok looked nervous. "But my emperor, there are no challenges left. We've beaten everyone we've met." "Not everyone," said Xalvor. He waved his hand, and a big map of the universe appeared in the air. "Look there," he said, pointing to a small galaxy. "The Milky Way. We haven't been there yet." Zok looked closely at the map. "It's so small, my emperor. Why bother?" Xalvor's eyes flashed with anger. "Because it's there. Because I say so," he shouted. Zok stepped back, afraid. "Sorry, my emperor." "Of course, you're right." Xalvor calmed down and sat back on his throne. "Besides," he said, "I've heard stories about the Milky Way. They say there's a planet there called Earth. The people who live there, humans, they think they're special." Zok laughed. "Special? How can they be special? They probably don't even have space travel yet." "That's what makes it interesting," said Xalvor. "They're young. They're still growing. But the stories say they're different from other races we've met. They're unpredictable. Surely they can't be a threat to us," said Zok. Xalvor shook his head. "Of course not. Nothing is a threat to the Zarkan Empire, but it might be fun to see how long they last before we crush them." The emperor stood up again and walked to the big window at the front of his ship. He looked out at the stars, thinking about this new adventure. "Set a course for the Milky Way," he ordered. "It's time to show these humans who really rules the universe." Zok bowed again. "Yes, my emperor. It will take us some time to get there, even with our fastest ships." "That's fine," said Xalvor. "It will give us time to prepare. I want to make this invasion special. When we arrive, I want the humans to be amazed by our power. I want them to know, from the moment they see us, that they have no hope." As Zok left to give the orders, Xalvor kept looking at the stars. He felt excited for the first time in many years. Usually, invading a new world was easy and boring, but something told him that Earth would be different. He didn't think the humans could win, of course. No one could beat the Zarkan, but maybe, just maybe, they would put up a good fight before the end. "Enjoy your last days of freedom, humans," Xalvor said to himself. "Soon, you'll be just another part of my empire. And if you're lucky, I might keep some of you as pets." The emperor laughed, and the sound echoed through his huge ship. Outside, the Zarkan fleet started to move. Thousands of ships, carrying millions of soldiers, all heading towards a small blue planet in a faraway galaxy. The greatest invasion force in history was on its way. And on Earth, no one knew they were coming. The day started like any other on Earth. People went to work, children played, and life went on as usual. But high above the planet, in a secret space station, alarms started to blare. Inside the station, A group of scientists and military officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Dr. Lee, the head scientist, pointed at a blinking dot on the main screen. "Look, something big just entered our solar system." Colonel Park, a tall woman with short black hair, leaned in for a closer look. "Is it an asteroid?" she asked. Dr. Lee shook his head. "No, it's moving too fast and changing direction. It's a ship. Actually," he paused, adjusting his glasses, "it's many ships. Hundreds of them." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Aliens were real, and they were here. Colonel Park straightened up. "We need to tell the world leaders right away," she said, "and we need to prepare our defenses." As the news spread, panic gripped the world. People rushed to stores to buy food and supplies. Some hid in their homes, while others went out to party, thinking the world might end soon. In a military base in Seoul, Captain Min-jun Kim received urgent orders. He was to take command of Earth's first and only interstellar warship, the Hope. The ship had been a secret project, built using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien craft years ago. Min-jun stood in front of the Hope, amazed by its size and sleek design. It was nothing like the clunky rockets he was used to. "She's beautiful," he whispered. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Yun Ji-cho, nodded in agreement. "Yes, but will she be enough to face whatever's coming?" Min-jun turned to his crew. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but we're humanity's best chance. Let's make Earth proud." As the Hope prepared for launch, the alien fleet drew closer. They were now past Jupiter, and Earth's long-range telescopes could finally see them clearly. Dr. Lee gasped as the images appeared on his screen. The alien ships were enormous, each one bigger than any city on Earth. They were black and spiky, looking more like floating fortresses than spaceships. Colonel Park's face turned grim. "How are we supposed to fight those?" she asked. Before Dr. Lee could answer, a message came in. The aliens were broadcasting on all frequencies in all languages. Their technology could somehow translate their words instantly. A deep, menacing voice filled the air. "People of Earth, hear me. I am Emperor Xalvor of the Zarkan Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. Surrender, and you may live as our slaves. Resist, and you will be destroyed." The message repeated over and over. On every TV, radio, and phone, people heard the alien emperor's threats. Fear turned to anger for many. Humanity had faced tough times before, but they had always fought back. World leaders quickly met online to discuss what to do. Some wanted to surrender, hoping to save lives. Others insisted on fighting, even if it seemed hopeless. In the end, they agreed. Earth would not give up without a fight. The president of the Global Union, a wise old woman named Ji-soo Kim, made an announcement to the world. "People of Earth, we face our greatest challenge. These aliens think they can come here and take our home. They think we'll just roll over and let them win. But they don't know us. They don't know how strong we are when we work together." As she spoke, the Hope launched into space. Captain Min-jun and his crew felt the weight of the whole world on their shoulders. They were heading towards an enemy they knew almost nothing about, with technology they barely understood. But they weren't alone. All over the world, people were preparing. Scientists worked day and night to improve Earth's weapons. Soldiers trained hard, ready to defend their homes. Regular people volunteered to help in any way they could. The Zarkan fleet was now passing Mars. In just a few days, they would reach Earth. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. On the Hope, Captain Min-jun looked at his crew. "We're the first line of defense," he said. "We might not win, but we'll show these aliens that humans don't go down without a fight." As the ship sped towards the enemy fleet, Min-jun thought about everything and everyone he was fighting for. He didn't know if they could win, but he knew one thing for sure. The Zarkan were about to learn that conquering Earth wouldn't be as easy as they thought. The day Earth had been dreading finally arrived. The Zarkan fleet entered Earth's orbit, their massive ships blocking out the sun in many places. People looked up at the sky in fear, wondering what would happen next. They didn't have to wait long to find out. Without warning, the alien ships started firing. Huge beams of energy shot down from the sky, hitting cities all over the world. Buildings crumbled and fires spread everywhere. In New York, a young woman named Soo-Yun Park ran through the chaos. She wasn't just any scientist. She was the lead developer of Earth's new weapons program. Soo-Yun knew she had to get to her lab. The fate of the world might depend on her work. As she ran, a Zarkin ship appeared overhead. It was about to fire when suddenly, a smaller ship flew past. It was the Hope, Earth's only space warship. Captain Min-Jun Kim's voice came over all radios. "This is Captain Kim. We're engaging the enemy. Don't give up. Earth." The Hope fired its weapons at the alien ship. To everyone's surprise, the shots actually damaged the huge vessel. The Zarkin ship turned away from the city to face this new threat. Meanwhile, in space, Emperor Xalvor watched the battle with growing anger. "How is this possible?" he roared. "How can one tiny ship hurt us?" His general, Zok, looked worried. "It seems the humans have some advanced technology, my emperor. But don't worry, it's just one ship. We'll crush it soon." But the Hope wasn't going down easily. Captain Min-Jun and his crew flew circles around the bigger, slower Zarkin ships. They couldn't do much damage, but they were distracting the aliens from attacking Earth. Back on the ground, Soo-Yun finally reached her lab. Inside, her team was hard at work. "Dr. Park," one of them called out, "we've made a breakthrough." Soo-Yun rushed over to see. On a screen, she saw data from the Hope's battle. "Our weapons are working better than we thought," she said. "But it's not enough. We need something bigger." As they worked, more reports came in. The Zarkan were landing troops now. In every major city, alien soldiers appeared. They were tall, blue-skinned, and heavily armed. They expected to walk right in and take over. But the humans weren't giving up. In Paris, a group of civilians, led by a brave teacher named Ji-hoon, set up traps for the aliens. When the Zarkan turned a corner, they were met with a hail of homemade bombs and gunfire. In Moscow, the military fought back hard. Tanks rolled through the streets, firing at the alien troops. To everyone's surprise, the Zarkan soldiers could be hurt. They weren't invincible after all. The aliens were shocked. This wasn't how invasions usually went for them. Normally, planets surrendered as soon as they saw the Zarkan fleet. But these humans were actually fighting back, and in some places, they were winning. Emperor Xalvor was furious. "Send in everything," he ordered. "I want this planet crushed now." More Zarkan ships moved in. They started bombing Earth's military bases, trying to destroy any organized resistance. But they had a hard time finding all the bases. Humans had been preparing for war for centuries, and they had hiding places the aliens couldn't imagine. In her lab, Soo-Yun had a sudden idea. "Their weapons," she said. "They use some kind of energy we've never seen before. But maybe we can turn it against them." Her team worked faster than ever, trying to find a way to use the aliens' own technology to defeat them. If they could do it, they might have a chance to win this war. Up in space, the Hope was starting to struggle. They had damaged several Zarkin ships, but now they were surrounded. "We can't keep this up much longer," Lieutenant Yunju reported. Captain Min-Jun nodded grimly. "We've done our part," he said. "We've shown Earth that these aliens can be hurt. Now it's up to the people down there to finish the job." As the Hope prepared for one last, desperate attack, the whole world watched and hoped. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and no one knew how it would end. But one thing was clear. The Zarkin's easy victory had turned into a real fight, and humanity wasn't going to give up. As the battle raged on, Dr. Soo-Yun Park worked tirelessly in her lab. She hadn't slept in days, but she couldn't stop now. The fate of humanity depended on her work. "I've got it," she suddenly shouted, startling her team. "Look at this." On her computer screen, a complex diagram appeared. It showed how the Zarkan weapons worked. But more importantly, it showed how to turn those weapons against them. They're energy weapons, Su Yun explained. They create a special field before they fire. If we can make a device that copies that field, we might be able to redirect their shots. Her team quickly got to work building a prototype. They used parts from old cell phones, microwaves, and even toy robots. It wasn't pretty, but it just might work. Meanwhile, in space, the Hope was in trouble. Captain Min Jun's ship was badly damaged and surrounded by Zarkan vessels. "This is it," Min Jun said to his crew. "It's been an honor serving with you all." Just then, a message came through. It was Dr. Park. "Captain," she said, her voice excited, "we've made a breakthrough. Can you get us the plans for the Zarkan ships?" Min Jun looked confused. "How are we supposed to do that?" His tech officer, a young man named Taiwan, spoke up. "Captain, I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." Taiwan explained his plan. They would let the Hope get captured on purpose. Once inside the Zarkan ship, they could steal the plans and send them to Earth. It was dangerous, but they had no other choice. The Hope pretended to surrender, and a huge Zarkan ship pulled them in. As soon as they were inside, Min Jun and his crew sprang into action. They fought their way through the alien ship, using their smaller size and quick thinking to outsmart the Zarkan. Finally, they reached the ship's control room. Taiwan quickly downloaded all the information he could find. "I've got it," he shouted, "sending to Earth now." Just then, alarms started blaring. The Zarkan had figured out what was happening. "Time to go," Min Jun ordered. They ran back to the Hope, fighting off aliens at every turn. As they escaped, the Zarkan ship exploded behind them. Taiwan had left a little surprise in their computer system. Back on Earth, Su Yun received the plans. With this new information, she could perfect her invention. In just a few hours, she had a working prototype. It was a small device that could be attached to any weapon. When the Zarkan fired their energy weapons, this device would catch the energy and send it right back at them. Su Yun rushed to show her invention to the world leaders. They were amazed. "Dr. Park," said President Jisoo, "you may have just saved humanity. How quickly can we make more of these?" Su Yun smiled. "That's the best part," she said. "We designed it to be simple. Anyone can make it with common materials. We're releasing the plans to everyone, right now." All over the world, people got to work. In factories, schools, and even in homes, humans started building Su Yun's device. They called it the boomerang, because it made alien attacks come right back at them. The Zarkan were confused. Suddenly, their weapons weren't working right. Every time they fired at a human position, the shot would curve back and hit them instead. Emperor Xalvor was furious. "What is happening?" he roared. "How are these primitives doing this?" His generals had no answer. They had never seen anything like this before. On Earth, the tide of battle was turning. Humans were pushing the Zarkan back in every city. The aliens' biggest advantage, their powerful weapons, had become their biggest weakness. In New York, a group of teenagers used boomerangs to take down a Zarkan walker. In Tokyo, the military used them to clear the sky of alien fighters. Even in small villages, farmers were using boomerangs to protect their homes. The Hope, badly damaged but still flying, led a counterattack against the Zarkan fleet. With boomerangs attached to their weapons, they were now a serious threat to the alien ships. As night fell on the first day of the counterattack, humanity dared to hope. They had taken the aliens' greatest strength and turned it against them. For the first time, it looked like they might actually win this war. The battle was far from over, but one thing was clear. The Zarkan had made a big mistake in underestimating human ingenuity. Emperor Xalvor paced back and forth on the bridge of his massive ship. His blue scales seemed to glow with anger. He couldn't believe what was happening. These humans, these tiny creatures he had thought would be so easy to conquer, were actually fighting back. And worse, they were winning. How is this possible? He roared at his generals. We have never lost a battle before. General Zok, once so confident, now looked scared. My emperor, he said, his voice shaking. The humans, they're not like anyone we fought before. They're creative. Zalvor's 4 eyes narrowed. Creative? What do you mean? They keep coming up with new ways to fight us, Zok explained. Every time we think we have them beat, they surprise us with something new. The emperor growled. He had never faced an enemy like this before. For the first time in his long life, Zalvor felt something he had never felt before: doubt. Meanwhile, on the moon, a secret base was buzzing with activity. This was humanity's last line of defense, hidden on the far side of the moon, where the Zarkan couldn't see it. Inside, Sergeant Jai-Ho Lee was preparing his team for their most important mission yet. They were Earth's best soldiers, trained to fight in space. Now, they had to prove they were ready. Listen up, team, Jai-Ho said, his voice firm but calm. We've got one shot at this. The Zarkan don't know we're here. We're going to use that surprise to hit them where it hurts. His team nodded. They were scared, but they were ready. They had trained for this moment their whole lives. As the Space Marines prepared, Dr. Soo-Yun Park arrived at the moon base. She had more news. Sergeant Lee, she said, we've made the boomerang even better. Now it doesn't just reflect their energy weapons. It can take that energy and power our own ships and weapons. Jai-Ho's eyes widened. You mean? Soo-Yun nodded, smiling. That's right. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we get. This was the news Jai-Ho had been waiting for. Now they had a real chance to win. Back on Earth, the battle raged on. In every city, humans fought bravely against the Zarkan invaders. They used everything they had: guns, tanks, and even kitchen tools turned into weapons. But most importantly, they used their brains. In Paris, a group of artists used paint to make fake targets, tricking the Zarkan into wasting their shots. In Rio de Janeiro, surfers used their boards to slip past alien defenses and plant bombs. In Nairobi, wildlife experts used their knowledge of animals to set traps for the aliens. The Zarkan didn't know how to handle this. They were used to enemies who fought in normal ways. But humans fought in ways the aliens had never seen before. Up in space, Captain Min Jun Kim and the crew of the Hope were still fighting. Their ship was badly damaged, but they wouldn't give up. They led a group of smaller Earth ships in attacks against the huge Zarkan fleet. Keep it up, Min Jun shouted to his crew. We just need to hold on a little longer. He knew about Jai-Ho's secret mission. Everything depended on the Space Marines now. On the moon, Jai-Ho and his team were ready. They climbed into their special space fighters, ships that looked tiny next to the massive Zarkan vessels. Remember, Jai-Ho said to his team, we're not trying to destroy their whole fleet. We just need to take out their command ship, cut off the head, and the body will fall. With that, they launched. The little fleet of human fighters flew out from behind the moon, heading straight for the biggest Zarkan ship, Emperor Xalvor's personal vessel. The Zarkan never saw them coming. By the time they realized what was happening, Jai-Ho and his team were already attacking. Their ships, powered up by the energy from Zarkan weapons, cut through the alien defenses like they were made of paper. Emperor Xalvor watched in horror as the human ships got closer and closer. For the first time in his life, the great conqueror felt fear. As alarms blared around him, Xalvor realized a terrible truth. He had made a big mistake in attacking Earth. These humans weren't just another race to conquer. They were something special, something dangerous. And now, they were coming for him. The space around Earth was filled with flashes of light. Hundreds of ships, both human and Zarkan, were locked in a fierce battle. In the middle of it all was Emperor Xalvor's massive command ship, surrounded by a swarm of smaller human fighters. Sergeant Jai-Ho Lee led the attack. His small ship darted between laser blasts, getting closer and closer to the alien Emperor's vessel. "Keep pushing," he shouted to his team. "We're almost there." Inside the command ship, Emperor Xalvor was panicking. He had never been in real danger before. "Shoot them down," he screamed at his crew. "Use everything we have." The Zarkin ship fired all its weapons at once. The space around it lit up like 1,000 suns. But the humans were ready. Their ships, powered by Dr. Suyun's improved boomerang devices, absorbed the energy and grew even stronger. Jai-Ho's fighter shot forward, faster than ever. "This is for Earth," he yelled as he fired directly at the command ship's main engine. The explosion was enormous. Xalvor's ship began to spin out of control, fire spreading across its surface. Meanwhile, on Earth, the ground battle had reached its peak. In every major city, humans and Zarkin fought street by street, building by building. In New York, a group of construction workers used their equipment to trap alien soldiers. In Tokyo, gamers used their quick reflexes to pilot remote-controlled drones against the invaders. In Lagos, market traders created mazes out of their stalls, confusing the Zarkin troops. The aliens were tough and had better weapons, but the humans had something more powerful: teamwork and creativity. Everywhere, people worked together, using whatever they had to fight back. Up in space, Captain Min Jun Kim watched the battle from the Bridge of the Hope. His ship was barely holding together, but they were still in the fight. "Status report," he called out. Lieutenant Yunji replied, "Sir, Jai-Ho's team has damaged the enemy command ship, but there are still too many Zarkin vessels. We need to do something big to end this." Min Jun thought hard. Then he had an idea. A crazy, dangerous idea. "Yunji," he said, "remember that trick Taiwan used to hack their computers? Could we do that again, but bigger?" Yunji's eyes widened. "You mean hack their whole fleet at once?" "It's possible, but we'd need to get very close to their main communication hub." Min Jun nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Tell everyone to cover us. We're going in." The Hope flew straight towards the heart of the Zarkin fleet. Every human ship nearby moved to protect them, fighting off waves of alien attackers. On the ground, Dr. Suyun watched the space battle on a big screen. She held her breath as she saw the Hope fly into danger. "Come on, Min Jun," she whispered. "You can do it." In his damaged command ship, Emperor Xalvor saw the Hope approaching. "Stop them," he roared. "Don't let them get close." But it was too late. The Hope reached the communication hub. Taiwan, his fingers flying over the keyboard, sent out the virus he had prepared. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Zarkin ships began to shut down. Their weapons stopped firing. Their engines turned off. The mighty alien fleet was helpless. On Earth, the Zarkin soldiers suddenly found their high-tech weapons useless. Without support from their ships, they were lost and confused. Humans everywhere cheered as they saw the aliens retreat. In every city, in every country, people hugged each other and cried with joy. They had done it. They had won. Back in space, Min Jun smiled tiredly. "Send a message to the Zarkin," he said. "Tell them it's over. Tell them to leave and never come back." Emperor Xalvor, watching his great fleet drift powerless in space, knew he was beaten. For the first time in the history of the Zarkin Empire, he gave the order to surrender. As the sun rose on a new day, the people of Earth looked up at the sky. The alien ships were leaving, limping away in defeat. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. But the victory had come at a great cost. Cities lay in ruins. Many brave people had died fighting. The world would need time to heal and rebuild. Yet as they looked at the free sky, people felt something they hadn't felt in a long time: hope. They had united as one planet to face a common enemy. Now they would work together to create a better future. The Zarkan had thought they were unstoppable, but they had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of human spirit and ingenuity. 1 year had passed since the Zarkan invasion. Earth was slowly healing. In every city, people worked together to rebuild what was destroyed. The sound of construction filled the air, a constant reminder of humanity's resilience. In New York, a special ceremony was taking place. The United Nations building, once partly destroyed by alien weapons, now stood tall again. Inside, leaders from every country gathered to honor the heroes who had saved Earth. President Jisoo Kim stood at the podium, her face serious but proud. "Today, we remember our victory," she said. "But more importantly, we remember what we learned about ourselves." In the audience, Captain Min Jun Kim sat next to Dr. Soo-Yun Park. They both wore medals for their bravery. Min Jun squeezed Soo-Yun's hand as they listened to the president's speech. "We learned that our greatest strength is not in weapons or technology," President Kim continued. "It's in our ability to work together, to think creatively, and to never give up hope." As she spoke, screens around the room showed images from the war. There were scenes of destruction, but also of incredible bravery. A group of children using skateboards to deliver supplies past alien patrols. Grandmothers turning their knitting needles into weapons. Scientists working day and night to find new ways to fight back. In the back of the room, Sergeant Jai-Ho Lee stood with his team of Space Marines. They were all thinking about their friends who didn't make it back. Jai-Ho's face was serious, but there was pride in his eyes. They had done what seemed impossible. President Kim's voice grew stronger. The Zarkan thought they knew everything about war. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they didn't understand the most important thing about humans. She paused, looking around the room. "We don't just fight with our hands or our weapons. We fight with our minds and our hearts. When we work together, there's nothing we can't do." The room erupted in applause. People from different countries, who once might have been enemies, now stood side by side as friends and allies. After the ceremony, Min Jun and Soo-Yun walked through the rebuilt streets of New York. They saw signs of the battle everywhere, buildings patched up with new materials, memorial statues on every corner. But they also saw signs of hope. Parks were full of playing children. Shops were open, their windows bright and cheerful. "Do you think they'll come back?" Soo-Yun asked, looking up at the sky. Min Jun shook his head. "I don't think so. They learned their lesson. But if they do," he smiled at her, "we'll be ready." Across the ocean, in a lab in Seoul, a team of scientists examined pieces of Zarkan technology. They were learning from it, figuring out how to make Earth's defenses even stronger. But they were also using it for peaceful purposes, to create new medicines, to clean up the environment, to explore deeper into space. In London, a group of artists unveiled a new monument. It showed people from all over the world standing together, looking up at the stars. At the base, words were written in many languages. "United we stand, across all boundaries." And far away on the edge of the solar system, a new space station was being built. It was a joint project of all Earth's nations, a watchpost to guard against any future threats. But it was also a symbol of humanity's new goal, to reach out to the stars not in fear, but in hope and curiosity. As night fell, people all over the world looked up at the sky. Some saw the scars left by the invasion. A few Zarkan ships that had crashed, now being turned into museums. But mostly, they saw the stars, shining bright and full of possibility. The invasion had changed everything. Humans no longer saw themselves as divided by borders or differences. They were one people, residents of Earth, ready to face whatever the universe might bring. In his home, an old history teacher smiled as he finished writing in his journal. The last lines read, "The Zarkan came to conquer us. Instead, they united us. They thought they were unstoppable, until they met humans. And in the end, They taught us the greatest lesson of all. Together, we are stronger than any force in the universe.